So for the do now, we have this map of the Missouri Compromise, and we have a letter from Thomas Jefferson basically talking about the Missouri Compromise. Okay. So you're gonna use all of this basically to answer these three questions. The first one, think about what you learned in Unit 4 for the Missouri Compromise. Describe the key aspects of the Missouri Compromise. So what is it? Why was it important? Number two, what is Thomas Jefferson's perspective on the Missouri Compromise? Again, you'll find all that information in his letter. So does he agree with it or does he disagree with it and why? And number three, predict, or now that the United States has gained new territory as a result of the war with Mexico, how might it address the same issue down the line? So if we get more territory, how would we address that problem? Should it be slave state or free state, okay? So keep those in mind. I'll give you all 5 minutes to go ahead and come up with some answers, and then we're gonna come back together and discuss them. So go ahead and get started. I'll come around and check and make sure everybody's doing well. We got about 3 minutes left. I like what I'm seeing so far. We'd love to see you all annotating. All right, 2 minutes left. Alright, you have 1 minute left. So go ahead and start wrapping up so you can come together. All right, let's go ahead and come back together. Everybody's attention needs to be on me. So number one, what are the key aspects of the Missouri Compromise? Let's just answer, what is the Missouri Compromise? Anybody want to go ahead and take a crack at it? Boys over here? I see you shaking your head, Jose, you got the answer? All right, so what is the Missouri Compromise?
It's a,
I agree, this line. Yeah, elaborate a little bit more on it. You're on the right track. You said it's a line. What does the line signify? Anybody want to help him out? He said that we have a line, okay? So we have this line right here. Let's use the map. What is above the line and what is below the line?
Free states.
Okay, so where are the free states? Okay, above the line or below the line? Exactly. So, yes, I know it's where the line is at the bottom of the slave state, but you know, we weren't alive back then. But, yes, so the free states are gonna be above it, the slave states are gonna be above or below the line, okay? So what this line basically did was say, like, you know what, Missouri's gonna come in, you all can be a slave state, but Maine is gonna come in, they're gonna be a free state. So we have a balance now. We have 11 slave states, 11 free states, okay? So now, slavery, done. We don't have to worry about it anymore. You can have your slave states, don't bring it to the north. And the south was like, all right, cool. So does that make sense to everybody? Now you know what the Missouri Compromise is. That is literally it. All right, moving on to number two. Based on his letter, how does Thomas Jefferson think about, or how does he feel about the Missouri Compromise? Does he like it? Does he dislike it? So Alex said that Jefferson saw the compromise as not a peace holder, but a traction that would consume more and more problems over time. So that is exactly right. Thomas Jefferson thought that this solution was kind of like putting a Band-Aid over like a wound, meaning that they're just kind of kicking the can down the road, right? He thinks that the Missouri Compromise is good for right now, for the time being, to keep the North and the South together. But in the long run, the issue of slavery would come up again. So this was not an end-all be-all, this is just to keep both sides happy for the time being. So, how do we think this will go? If we keep on adding more slave, or not slave states, if we add more and more territory, more and more states, like, do we think that is going to upset the balance? Exactly, so it will. So moving on to number three, now that the United States has gained new territory as a result of the war with Mexico, how might it address this same issue? So what do we have to do now? If we add in 3 more states from the Mexican-American War, what has to happen now? What do we have to do? How are we gonna bring these states in without upsetting the balance? We can't, because it's an uneven number, right? So somebody's gonna be upset, right? So, I know you all were not here yesterday for the most part, and we didn't get a chance to talk about a lot of this, but we want to keep on trucking along, right? So, let's move on from this so we can go ahead and get started. Alright, so our essential question, Chris, can you read off that?
What is the United States to the United?
Alright, if I can felony question, Lupe, can you read that off for me?
How did the Mexican-American War change the debate over slavery?
How did the Mexican-American War change the debate over slavery? Alright, today students will be able to explain the similarities and differences in how regional attitudes affect the federal policy in the period after the American War. So to simplify this, how does the North and the South feel about the federal policies after the Mexican-American War? What changes are they trying to make? Students will also be able to explain the Mexican-American War. We're gonna be talking about that war a lot today. And you also will be able to explain the significance of the Fugitive Slave Act. That's another big one. And you will be able to explain how the Missouri Compromise will impact future expansion of the U.S. Alright. So for our vocabulary, Sheila, can you read this one off for everybody, please?
Which one?
The first one, Missouri Compromise.
Not to upset the balance between slavery and free states in the nation. The Constitution admitted Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a non-slave state at the same time. This also allowed slavery above the slavery states to produce the reality of
Thank you very much. And basically like what we're talking about for I do now, the Missouri Compromise, they created this line, a 3630 latitude line that says slavery is okay below this, but it is not okay above it. Okay. Nativist. Josue, can you read this off for me, please?
The political policy of promoting the interests of native inhabitants against those of immigrants, including the support of immigration restriction measures. In scholarly studies, nativism is a standard technical term, although those who hold this political view do not particularly accept the label.
Thank you very much. So, nativist, this is basically when immigrants are discriminated against because they are not native to that land. Anybody that comes from a different country or a different part of the world, they're like, you know what, you're not as good as us, basically. So we're gonna create policies that kind of discriminate against you. Let's keep moving forward. So, let's go ahead and take a look at this document. This is basically the same picture we looked at for now. So, from everything you know about the Missouri Compromise now, how does the land from the Mexican cession challenge the continued existence of the 3630 line of the Missouri Compromise? So in other words, how does this gaining new land from the Mexican-American War, how does that affect the Missouri Compromise? Is this a good thing or a bad thing for the compromise? If we have 11 slave states and 11 free states and we get 3 new states, is that gonna upset the balance or is that going to be just fine? Exactly, it's gonna upset the balance. And somebody's gonna be upset because somebody is going to get the short stick basically. Somebody's gonna have 1 state added to them, okay? How does the Compromise of 1850 attempt to satisfy both the North and the South? Okay? So do you remember what the Compromise of 1850 was based on the video? We do? Okay. So, how does the Compromise of 1850 satisfy both the North and the South? What does the North get? What state does the North get?
California.
I'm sorry?
California.
Exactly. They get California. California is going to be a free state. What does the South get? What is that act that they get now? What can they now do? Exactly, the Fugitive Slave Act. So now they can go up to the north anytime and say, you know what, we think you are harboring slaves. Let me go through your park or your place. Let me go through your home and let me see if you're hiding slaves. And not only that, but they could essentially say, you know what, we see a free black man walking, we're gonna kidnap him and say he was a runaway slave. Okay? So this is very important. What else do they get? There's a couple of other states that come along from the territory. What is going to happen to those states? They don't necessarily become slave states, but what do they get to decide? So the other territories that are added in, they actually get to decide if they want to be free or slave states, okay? So the Utah territory, New Mexico, Nevada, Texas, they all get to decide if they are going to come in as a free state or a slave state, okay? I hope you're not falling asleep, man. Okay. So make sure you write this all down. I'm gonna move on here shortly. Alright, let's move on. So let's go ahead and go to document D. Flip over to document D for me. Okay, so this document was written by David Wilmot, and he is going to be talking about the Mexican-American War and what impact that had on the North, okay? So this is written from the perspective of somebody from the North. So let's go ahead and read this off, all right? Melvin, can you go ahead and read that first paragraph for me, sir?
But sir, the issue now presented is not whether slavery shall exist, but whether it shall be carried to new and distant regions. Upon it I take my stand, and from it I cannot be frightened or driven by idle charges or of abolitionists. Sir, I was in favor by the annexations of Texas. The Democratic Party of the North almost to a man went for annexation. Shall further concession be made by the North, must we yield this California also?
Thank you very much. And can you please read off that same paragraph for me?
We are told that the joint blooded treasure of the whole country are being expended in this accusation. Therefore, it should be divided and slavery allowed to take its share. Sir, the North has her share already. The installment for slavery was paid in advance. We are fighting this war for Texas and for the South. For this, sir, northern treasure is being exhausted, the northern blood poured upon the plains of Mexico. We are fighting this war for Texas, and yet we seek not to change the character of her institution. Slavery is there. There, let it remain.
Thank you very much. Now, sir, we are told that California is ours, that New Mexico is ours, won by the valor of our arms. They are free. Shall they remain free? Shall these provinces be the inheritance in the homes of the white labor of freemen or the black labor of slaves? Alright. So, now that we know this is written from a person from the North's perspective, David Wilmot, what is he saying? What is the main idea of this? Say it again. Exactly. So where should slavery be allowed at, and where should slavery not be allowed at? Okay. So the idea for this is that David Wilmot is upset that the North is fighting a war that will help basically expand slavery. He feels that they have been compromising, but the South has been getting the better end of the deals, and he feels that that will continue to happen. He is saying that our Northerners, we're helping fight a war for something that we really don't even believe in. We don't really want slavery to expand. It's fine where it is. We're not trying to get rid of it where it is, but we don't want it to expand. Okay? everybody is upset. That the North is fighting a war. That will help extend slavery. Alright. So he is upset. So, based on that, we conclude that the Northerners dislike fighting the war, even if they receive California, and he mentions California. He says that California is ours also, but we have to concede that eventually.
All lunch
We
age
eventually have
students
to
should
give
now
that
be
to the South as well.
transitioning to fifth period. All lunch age students should now be transitioning to fifth period.
So Northerners dislike fighting the war. Even if they get California. I got it. You writing this down, Lupe?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, cool. Alright, so they dislike fighting the war. As we know, the North, they don't want slavery like that. Some of them are okay with where slavery is, and a lot of them want to get rid of slavery altogether. So them fighting the war is almost counterproductive to what they want to do. If we get all of this new land, and the majority of it becomes a slave state, okay? So they don't like that. And this connects to our compelling question. Our compelling question asks us, how does the Mexican-American War affect our attitude towards slavery? This shows right here that from the North point of view, they dislike the war because of slavery, alright? The only reason they're fighting this war is because they want to keep the Union together. If the South was the only part of the country that was to fight, it would continue to divide the country, alright? So they have to help them out.
Oh.
This explains the impact slavery had on the North due to the Mexican-American War. Alright, so does this make sense to everybody? Are we good to move on to answer the questions? You good? Jose Josue? Alright? Alright, let's move on.